My name's Lexi. I'm 23 years old, and according to my Aunt Monica, I was never supposed to make anything of myself. She used to smile when she said it, like it was a joke. Lexi's great with kids, she'd tell people, clapping a hand on my back. She's not the academic type, but give her a diaper and a sippy cup, and she'll keep your kid alive. Not teach, not nurture, just keep them alive. That was my title in her eyes, the babysitter. I lived with Monica from the time I was 13, after my mom died suddenly, and my dad, well, he fell apart. He moved 3 states away with some woman he met in a grief group, and I never heard from him again. Monica was the only one left. My mom's older sister, childcare director, respected in our small town, owner of Sunny Steps Daycare. Everyone loved her, everyone except the people who worked under her. I didn't know it at first. I was too young, too grateful, too scared of losing another home. But it didn't take long to see who she really was behind the cheery voice and the pressed cardigans. She was cruel in the quietest ways. If a staff member took too long of a bathroom break, she'd cut their hours. If a parent complained, even if the complaint was absurd, she'd throw an assistant teacher under the bus. And if anyone questioned her methods, she'd say, "There's the door, sweetheart." I started helping out at the daycare when I was 15, not officially, of course, just family help, unpaid, always on call. Sick days, didn't matter. Finals week, she'd say, "Don't be dramatic, Lex. It's just community college." I didn't complain, not once, because I thought maybe if I worked hard enough, she'd finally see me as something more, someone real, not a leftover kid dumped on her doorstep, not just free labor. But no matter what I did, I was always the babysitter, never Lexi. The assistant teacher, never Lexi. The future educator, just Monica's niece, who wiped noses and swept glitter, and did all the things she didn't want to. She'd tell parents I wasn't qualified to do anything important, just a helper. She made sure I stayed small. But what she didn't know was, I watched everything. I watched the way she pocketed tuition checks in cash. I watched the way she screamed at new staff in the kitchen, where there were no cameras. I watched how she adjusted enrollment numbers on state inspection day. I watched it all, and I remembered. And when I turned 21, I left. No goodbye. No thank you. No warning. I moved into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, took night classes, and worked 2 jobs, one at a bookstore, the other at a daycare downtown that actually trained its employees. It wasn't easy. I ate dollar ramen 5 nights a week, walked to work in the rain, studied on my 15-minute breaks. I was exhausted. But I was seen. My new supervisor didn't call me a babysitter. She called me an asset. She let me lead story time, trusted me to communicate with parents. And when I got my child development associate credential, she cried. Monica didn't even send a text. 2 years passed. Then one chilly October morning, I got a phone call from a former Sunny Steps employee, Tara. She sounded breathless. "You won't believe this," she said. "Monica just got fired." I blinked. "Wait. What?" "A new parent filed a complaint. State did a surprise inspection. They found all kinds of violations. Unlicensed assistants, expired food in the toddler fridge, no records for half the part-time kids." My mouth was dry. She tried to argue, Tara said. But they had video. She shoved a 3-year-old out of the way during nap time. I didn't know what to say. She's barred from running or owning a licensed childcare center for 5 years. I sat there, stunned. And then, after a minute, I laughed. It wasn't mean. It wasn't triumphant. It was relief, like something in my chest finally exhaled after years of holding still. But the story doesn't end there. Because 3 months later, I got an email. The building that housed Sunny Steps Daycare. It was up for auction. The owners didn't want to renew with a new director. They wanted out. It was a long shot. I didn't have the kind of money to buy property. But I had good credit, a clean record, and something Monica never did support. My current boss, Lynn, helped me apply for a small business loan. She even offered to partner with me, but I said no. I wanted to do it alone. I wanted them to see my name on that sign, not someone else's. So I submitted a bid. It wasn't the highest, but it was clean. No debt, no risk, no ties to the scandal. And to everyone's shock, it was accepted. I bought the daycare Monica got fired from. And not just the business, I bought everything. The toys, the furniture, the books, even the security system. The first time I walked into that building as the owner, I stood in the middle of the office, her old office, and let the silence wash over me. I imagined her standing there, barking at Tara, tossing my old lunch out, because it smelled weird. I imagined her saying, "You'll never run something like this, Lex. You don't have it in you." And then I looked around and smiled. Because I did. I do. The building smelled exactly the same. That faint mix of lemon cleaner and fruit snacks. It hit me the second I walked through the doors. For a split second it was like I was 16 again, sweeping goldfish crumbs off the playroom floor, while Monica barked at a toddler's mom about pickup times. Except this time, I had the keys. I was the one unlocking the doors, and she was nowhere to be found. I stood in the main room for a long time that first day, letting it all sink in. The cubbies were still there, some with names taped on. The little mural on the wall, a sun with smiling clouds, was faded now, but still cute, familiar. It was like the building had been paused in time. The last owners didn't even bother to clean out the drawers. When I opened the main desk, I found Monica's old coffee mug, one of those cheesy boss lady ones she made us give her one Christmas. I stared at it for a second, then dropped it straight into the trash. Some things don't deserve to stay. The first 2 weeks were tough. I was running on pure adrenaline and caffeine. There were permits to refile, safety checks to update, inspections to schedule, supplies to reorder, and I hadn't even hired a single staff member yet. But I wasn't scared. Not even once. Because for the first time, I wasn't answering to anyone. No Monica, no sneers, no babysitter jabs. I was building something real. I called it Little Ladders Learning Center, not just a place to keep kids alive. Like Monica used to joke, a real environment where little minds could climb, explore, and thrive. And you better believe, I made sure every parent, every teacher, every inspector knew that this wasn't Sunny Steps anymore. That legacy was over. I was rewriting it. I interviewed every staff member myself. Tara was the first one I called. She cried on the phone when I offered her the lead toddler teacher role. She'd been working retail since the firing, terrified she'd never get a childcare job again with Monica's drama on her resume. "You believed in me when I didn't," she whispered during her second week. "I won't forget that, Lex." Neither would I. I hired 2 assistant teachers, both newly certified and full of ideas, a part-time art instructor who had once been fired by Monica for getting paint on the carpet, and an older woman named Miss Ellie, who'd worked in preschool programs for 30 years and hugged every kid like they were her grandbaby. The energy in that building shifted overnight. There was laughter again, and music, and children actually learning, not just being told to sit down and be quiet. We did finger painting, sensory bins, letter tracing, nature walks, even yoga with little mats. The parents loved it. Word spread quickly, and before I knew it, we had a wait list. Me, the babysitter. We were 2 months into our first official term when I saw her again. I was in the front yard with the kids blowing bubbles while they stomped around in the spring grass when a black SUV pulled up at the curb. At first, I didn't recognize it, but then the window rolled down. Monica, same stiff hair, same expensive sunglasses, same sour expression like she just smelled something awful. I stood up straighter. My heart didn't even race. She didn't get out of the car. She just stared at the sign. Little Ladders Learning Center, where every step counts, and then turned those cold eyes toward me. Our eyes met. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just said one word. "Really?" Then she rolled up the window and drove off. I didn't say anything to the kids, didn't let it touch the moment. But inside, I felt like something final had snapped into place, like a chapter had truly closed. She saw me, and she knew. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring, let it go to voicemail, and when I listened, I had to replay it twice to believe what I was hearing. It was Monica. Her voice was sharp, bitter, but off, like she wasn't sure which role to play. Lexi, I just saw the building. Your little daycare. I guess you think this is funny. What? Some big payback. A revenge plot. I gave you a place to live when nobody else would. I took care of you. And this is how you repay me? I almost laughed out loud. But then her voice dropped. Just remember, Lex, nothing lasts forever, especially businesses built on ego. She hung up. No goodbye, no congratulations, just venom. I saved the voicemail. Not because I was scared, because I wanted the reminder that even when people try to shrink you down, erase your identity, mock your dreams, you can still rise. You can rise, and they will see it. But the truth is, I never did this just for revenge. I did it because I believe in more, in creating spaces that heal, in building something for every kid who's ever been made to feel small, something I never had growing up. Every morning now, I unlock the doors to my center. I wipe little tears, tie little shoes, cheer for kids who spell their name for the first time. I lead staff meetings. I pay my people well, I listen to them, and when I walk through the halls, hearing music and storybooks and giggles echoing around me, I feel whole. I feel seen, not as a babysitter, as the woman who took what was meant to break her and turned it into something beautiful. It's funny how quickly people change their tune when you succeed. Suddenly all the same parents who used to drop their kids off at Sunny Steps, who smiled at Monica and barely looked twice at me, started asking for tours of little ladders. They'd step into the front lobby, spot me at the welcome desk, and do a double take. Oh, Lexi. Right, weren't you? Yes, I was. I was the girl they used to call Monica's niece, the helper, the background noise, the babysitter. But now I'm the one showing them the curriculum wall. I'm the one who walks them into a classroom filled with laughter and art instead of fluorescent lights and stress. I'm the one they trust. Every time it happens, I smile warmly and say, let me show you what we're building here, because I'm not bitter. I don't need to. The best revenge isn't loud, it's sustainable. Still, there are reminders, sharp little echoes of the past that sneak in when I least expect it. Like the time Miss Donahue, one of Monica's former favorites, brought her son in for a tour and casually said, I always thought it was a shame you didn't go into something more serious, Lexi, but it's nice you found a calling. I smiled. What I wanted to say was, this is serious. I'm literally shaping the future one child at a time. What I actually said was, we take our work very seriously here, Mrs. Donahue. Would you like to see our early literacy program? Because I've learned that grace has more weight than bitterness, and results are louder than old insults. Still, not everything has been easy. Running a daycare is hard. Some mornings I show up with barely 4 hours of sleep. Budget meetings run long. Licensing reps are late. A child throws up. A staff member calls in sick. And suddenly, I'm filling in for 2 classes while emailing a plumber about a leaky sink. There are days I question everything. But then I hear a kid yell, Miss Lexi, and run into my arms. And I remember exactly why I'm here. One day, about 6 months in, I'm reorganizing our learning supply closet when I hear the front door chime. I assume it's a delivery or maybe a parent dropping off late. But when I step into the lobby, my stomach drops. It's Monica. No sunglasses this time, no perfect curls. Her makeup is thin, and her blazer doesn't quite fit the way it used to. She looks tired, but the air around her still carries that same superiority. Like she's never quite entered a room without expecting it to belong to her. Lexi, she says flat. I nod. Monica, she glances around the lobby. The walls are painted a soft green now, not the pale yellow she once picked. Our new logo is painted above the check-in tablet. Photos of smiling children and staff line the hallway. There's no trace of her. I see you've made some changes. Yes, I say. A few. Silence stretches between us. And then she gets to it. I'm applying to some new positions, she says. Management roles, private daycares, churches. You know the drill. I don't respond. She clears her throat. I need references. Ah. There it is. You were the only one I figured might not be bitter. I stare at her. Not angry. Not smug. Just tired. Tired of the way she still believes the world turns for her convenience. You need me to lie? I ask gently. Her face twitches. Excuse me, Monica, you were fired. The state pulled your license. There's video evidence. Do you really think I'd tell someone to trust you with their kids? I raised you, she snaps. No, I say, and my voice comes out stronger than I expected. You housed me. There's a difference. She flinches. But I'm not done. You used me. Worked me for free, told people I was stupid. Said I'd never do better than folding nap mats and picking up crayons. You made me feel invisible in a building I gave everything to. Her mouth opens, then shuts. But I did do better, and you hate that. Her eyes flash, and for a second, she looks like she might lash out. But then it's gone. She smooths her blazer, adjusts the strap of her purse, and says quietly, You're still ungrateful. I take a breath. You know what's funny? I say, you used to say I'd never get out from under you? That I'd always just be a girl in the background. And now, 6 years later, you're standing in my lobby asking me for help. She doesn't answer. Instead, she turns, opens the door, pause, then, over her shoulder, she mutters, Don't let it go to your head. The door shuts behind her. I stand there for a long minute, letting the quiet settle around me. Then, I go back to my supply closet and finish organizing the bins. That night, I journal the whole thing out. I don't cry, I don't scream. I just write. And at the end of the page, I write something I didn't even realize I believed until I saw it. Maybe forgiveness doesn't mean letting them in again. Maybe it means not letting them live in your head anymore. A few weeks later, something incredible happened. We get a visit from a woman named Camila. She runs a grant program for small childcare centers and heard about us through a parent referral. I've seen a lot of places, she says after her tour. But what you're doing, it's rare. It's intentional. You're not just running a center. You're building a foundation. 2 months after that, we receive our first grant, $50,000 to expand our programming and upgrade our equipment. I cry in the break room when the letter comes in, ugly cry, snot, and everything. Miss Ellie pats my back while Tara brings me a cupcake from the kitchen and yells, This calls for glitter. And it hits me. This isn't just about proving Monica wrong anymore. This is about building what I never had. A space where kids feel safe, where staff feel valued, where nobody's reduced to just a babysitter. That's the legacy I'm writing now. And no one, not even Monica, can erase it. 3 weeks after we got the grant, a news reporter showed up. I was in the playroom, kneeling in a circle of toddlers who were very seriously attempting to glue feathers to paper plates. One of them had already eaten half a glue stick, and another had glued their sock to the floor. So I was in full crisis management mode when Miss Ellie peeked her head in. Lexi? She whispered, There's, someone from Channel 9 here, with a camera. I blinked. What? Apparently, the grant program had included us in a press release. Innovative small business recipients changing their community. And since our town isn't exactly big, the local news picked it up. Next thing I know, there's a woman in a blazer asking me questions under the old oak tree out front, while I try to keep my voice from shaking. How does it feel to go from being an assistant at Sunny Steps to owning your own center in the same space? She asked. I hesitated. The truth? It felt like crawling out of a locked room and finding a whole field of sunlight waiting. But I just smiled and said, It feels like home now. For me, for the staff, for the kids, that's all I ever wanted. The segment aired the following night. We weren't the headline, but we got a solid 3 minutes of coverage. I watched it alone in my apartment with a pint of Rocky Road and my legs tucked under a blanket, heart pounding like it was my name being read at the Oscars. The next day, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. More parents asking about the wait list. A local bakery wanting to sponsor a reading corner. Even a retired librarian offering to volunteer twice a week for free. It felt surreal. But what really stunned me was the letter. It came in a cream envelope with no return address. The handwriting was unfamiliar. Inside was a folded note and a $10 bill. No name, just this. My daughter was in your care at Sunny Steps years ago. I remember how kind you were. You knelt down to help her with her laces even when you thought no one was watching. I've never forgotten that. This is small, but I believe in what you're doing. Thank you for seeing the children. I stared at that note until my eyes burned. $10 and more meaning than $1,000 check from a sponsor ever could carry. Because that was it. That was the difference. Monica had run a center that looked good on paper. I was building one that felt good in people's hearts. But of course, success doesn't protect you from the past. It was the following week, Wednesday afternoon. Most of the kids had gone home. I was in the front office doing payroll when I saw someone walk past the window, someone I didn't expect. My dad. I hadn't seen him since I was 13. The last memory I have is him driving away in a red pickup truck with a U-Haul rattling behind it, a stranger sitting in the passenger seat. He never looked back. He barely even said goodbye. Now he was standing at my front desk. He looked older. Not bad, just worn. His gray hair was longer than I remembered. He held a small gift bag in one hand and a folded paper in the other. "Hi, Lexi," he said quietly. I froze. My fingers still hovered above the keyboard. Part of me wondered if I'd conjured him from thin air. "What are you doing here?" I finally managed. He offered a small smile. "Saw the news piece, wanted to see the place. Maybe see you." I didn't know what to say. I had practiced this moment in my head 100 times. Fantasy conversations where I told him exactly how much he hurt me, how he abandoned me, how I cried myself to sleep the first 3 weeks living with Monica. But all of that just floated. Instead, I stood, walked to the door, opened it. He stepped inside, looked around. "This is beautiful," he said genuinely. "You built this?" "Yes," I said. "Without you, or her." He nodded slowly, didn't argue. Just took a deep breath and handed me the paper. It was a short letter, apology, regret, an attempt at explaining how grief swallowed him whole after Mom died, how he didn't know how to raise a teenage daughter alone, how he made the wrong choice and stayed away because he thought I was better off without him. "I'm not asking for anything," he said. "I just wanted you to know I'm proud of you, that I see what you've done, and if you ever wanted to talk." He left the note. And the bag just a small stuffed giraffe, like the one I carried everywhere as a little girl. Then he left. No pressure, no manipulation, just gone. I sat in my office with the letter in one hand and the giraffe in the other, and I cried. Not because I forgave him, not yet, but because something in me finally let go of the need to understand why he left. Sometimes the closure isn't an explanation. It's accepting that you may never get one and healing anyway. The following morning, I was back at work before dawn. The classroom lights blinked on one by one. The scent of toast and blueberries drifted from the kitchen. Tara showed up early with extra coffee. Ellie brought her husband's old stereo so the kids could dance before snack time. And just before our morning meeting, I walked to the staff wall where we hang photos and notes of appreciation, and I added something new, a sign that reads, "We are not babysitters. We are architects of childhood. We still have hard days. We still have tantrums and spilled juice and forms I forget to file until 11:58 p.m. But every single moment is mine now, built by choice, not survival." And somewhere deep in the walls of this place, I hope the kids feel that someone believed in them, that someone built this not in spite of being underestimated, but because of it. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself you were never just anything. You were everything all along. 2 months after my dad showed up, I got invited to speak at a career day event. The local high school wanted alumni to come back and talk about their paths, what we'd done, what we'd learned. My first instinct was to say no. I didn't feel like I belonged in a room with business owners and engineers and attorneys, but then I thought about the kids I'd been, the quiet ones, the ones who were overlooked, the ones who didn't get A's in math or trophies in sports or scholarships in science, so I said yes. And on a Friday morning in late April, I stood in front of a group of restless teenagers in folding chairs and told them what no one ever told me. You don't have to be loud to matter. You don't have to be perfect to lead. And you don't need permission to build something beautiful. I told them how I grew up in the background, raised by someone who never saw me as more than labor, how I was called just a babysitter by someone who should have lifted me up instead of putting me down, and how I used every insult, every dismissal, every "you're not good enough" as fuel. When the bell rang, a few kids lingered. A girl with dark curls pulled me aside and whispered, "My aunt says I'll end up flipping burgers if I don't get it together." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Tell her that burgers feed people, and so do stories, and songs, and care. So whatever you do, make sure it's real, and make sure it's yours." She smiled. And I realized I wasn't just building a business anymore, I was building a voice. But success has a way of waking up old shadows. The following weekend, I went to a friend's baby shower at a little tea house downtown. I barely knew anyone there, but I wanted to be supportive. Halfway through gift opening, I stepped outside for some air, and that's when I heard them. Two women, familiar faces from town. One of them used to volunteer at Sunny Steps. She got lucky, one of them said. That grant saved her. Otherwise, she'd be folding laundry somewhere. Monica was harsh. "Sure," the other replied, "but she was professional. Lexi just, I don't know. She always seemed like a quiet kid, trying to act grown." I didn't move, just stood on the side patio, half behind a column. It shouldn't have hit me, not after everything I'd overcome, but it did. Those words crawled under my skin like they had a right to be there. And then I stepped around the corner. Their faces went pale. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. I just looked them both in the eye and said, "Thanks for the feedback. I'll be sure to add it to the wall of unsolicited opinions next to the glitter table." Then I walked back inside and sat with my friend and watched her open burp cloths and onesies like nothing had happened. Because here's what I've learned. Some people will never give you credit. They will minimize, undermine, dismiss. And it has nothing to do with your worth. It's about them, what they fear, what they've never built, what they secretly regret not doing. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of tea and rewrote the mission statement for Little Ladder. We are a place where care is not minimized, where love is not unpaid labor, where children grow and so do the people who serve them. We are not lucky. We are prepared. We are rooted. And I printed it on a poster and hung it in the hallway. The next morning, as the staff passed it on their way in, each one smiled, nodded, or touched the frame. We were becoming a family. That weekend, I hosted our first parent partnership Saturday. Instead of just reporting on kids' behavior or holding conferences, we invited parents to come play, read stories, make slime, decorate planters, see what we see, understand who their children are when they're not on screens or in rush hour tantrum. One dad choked up watching his son sit still for an entire circle time, something he swore was impossible. A mom took photos of her daughter sharing crayons. She said it was the first time she'd ever seen her do that with a smile. One of the new parents, a single father named James, lingered after cleanup. His daughter Maya was one of our quieter ones, often sticking to the edge of activities. But today, she ran, laughed, glowed. "I haven't seen her like that since her mom passed," he said softly. "You did that." I swallowed hard. "No," I said. "She did that. We just gave her a place to feel safe doing it." But truthfully, I needed that moment too. Because the more success you build, the more the world finds ways to ask, "Do you really belong here?" And it's easy to shrink again, to fall back into old stories. But not this time. This time, I stood tall and let that joy settle in my bones. Later that night, after the last juice box had been packed away and the last goldfish vacuumed up, I stood in the dark hallway of Little Ladders and let the silence wrap around me. There were faint echoes like ghost laughter in the walls, the happy kind, the safe kind, the kind I never heard in Monica's version of this place. I turned the lights off and whispered, "We're just getting started," because that was the truth. This wasn't a victory lap, it was just the beginning. It's a Tuesday morning in June, when everything nearly falls apart. I'm in the break room refilling the coffee machine when Tara bursts in, out of breath, her face pale. "Lexi, you need to see this, now." My heart drops. I follow her to the front desk, where she shows me an email forwarded from one of our parent contacts. It's a social media post, a screenshot of our daycare, our logo, our playground. But above the image, a caption that makes my stomach twist. "Would you trust your kid with a girl who barely got her GED and only bought a center because her aunt got banned? Childcare isn't charity work. It's a profession. Know who you're leaving your children with." No name is signed, but I know who wrote it. Monica. The email is from an anonymous account, but the writing, the tone is hers, sharp, spiteful, laced with just enough truth to hurt. She's never been one to attack head on. No, Monica prefers slow poison, whispered gossip, quiet sabotage. I sink into the chair behind the front desk and stare at the post. It has over 70 shares, half of them are local. My hands shake as I refresh the screen, hoping to see it deleted, hoping it was just a bad dream, but it's still there, growing. Tara puts a hand on my shoulder. "What do you want to do?" I don't answer right away, because the old me, the Lexi who once cried in secret after Monica's insults, wants to run. But I don't. Not this time. Instead, I exhale and stand. We respond, professionally, publicly, but with the truth. Tara nods, and together, we draft a statement. At Little Ladders Learning Center, we believe in transparency, growth, and the power of second chances. While I, Lexi Monroe, may not have taken the traditional path, I have completed my CDA credential, own this licensed facility outright, and have a team of certified professionals who believe in every child's potential. This post circulating about me is rooted in personal history, not facts. We invite any parent, guardian, or licensing official to visit our facility, ask questions, and experience firsthand the nurturing environment we've built together. We post it to every platform. We pin it to our page. We send a copy to every parent in our community email list. And then, we wait. The response blows me away. Not only do we get dozens of comments from parents expressing support, but they also share their own stories. A mom writes, "My son used to scream every morning before school. Since coming to Little Ladders, he runs to the car." A grandparent says, "Lexi taught my grandson how to hold a crayon, not just scribble. You don't need a PhD to care. You need heart." She has both. Even former Sunny Step staff, some I hadn't spoken to in years, message me privately with screenshots showing Monica still trying to apply at various places under different job titles. She's burning bridges faster than she can rebuild. But I stay quiet, not because I'm afraid, but because I've finally learned something powerful. You don't owe your abuser a stage. You don't have to defend yourself forever to people who've already made up their minds. Sometimes, the work speaks louder than the wound. And then, 2 days later, something happens that nearly breaks me, but in the best possible way. I'm cleaning up after snack time when Maya, the quiet girl with the single father, James, comes up to me with a folded sheet of construction paper. It's a card. Inside is a stick figure with giant glasses, me and a tiny smiling blob, her, and 3 words written in shaky preschool handwriting. "I love Lexi." I bite my lip to stop the tears. James picks her up that afternoon and pulls me aside. "I saw the post," he said. "Some people are just bitter, but I hope you know, you changed her life, and mine." He hands me an envelope. Inside is a check, a donation, $5,000 toward playground renovations. "No strings," he says, "just thank you." I don't have words, only a full heart, and the overwhelming urge to hug someone. That night, I call Miss Ellie just to tell her I love her. She laughs and says, "Of course you do, baby. But are you finally gonna let me buy that second art easel, or what?" I say yes. We buy two. The next week, our summer enrollment maxes out. We're full. Every spot filled. Kids from every part of town. Parents of all backgrounds. And every single one of them believes in what we're doing. Monica disappears from the gossip mill. I hear through someone else she tried to apply at a learning center in a neighboring county, but they ran a background check and passed. Meanwhile, we're expanding. I hire a speech therapist to work on site once a week. Launch a weekend reading hour with volunteer grandparents. Partner with a local college to offer internship hours for early ed students. And through it all, I keep writing. Late at night, after the doors are locked and the hallways are silent, I pull out a journal and write every little victory, every hard day, every comment from a child that reminds me why this all matters. Because this story isn't just about proving Monica wrong anymore. It's about showing every little girl out there, every dismissed teen, every quiet worker, every underestimated babysitter that they are more, so much more. There's something about the sound of kids laughing that heals parts of you you didn't even know were broken. It's the soundtrack of my life now. It fills the halls before I even turn the lights on. Feet pattering across carpet, crayons clinking in jars, someone shrieking because they found a worm outside. It's chaos, but it's beautiful. And every single moment of it is mine, not stolen, not a sign, claimed. 3 weeks after the attack post died down, we hosted our biggest event yet, the first ever Little Ladders Family Festival. It was a full Saturday. We rented bouncy castles, brought in a balloon artist, set up a face painting station, and had a bake sale to raise money for new learning tablets. The kids made artwork to sell for $1 a piece, and every single drawing got bought by someone. Parents, staff, strangers. It was joy on every level. Tara wore a tutu and danced in the middle of the ground. Miss Ellie brought her entire extended family and handed out lemonade like it was gold. Even James offered to run the grill for free, flipping burgers while Maya stood beside him with a little paper cashier badge taped to her dress. And I stood near the welcome table, watching it all, not even realizing I was crying until one of the parents handed me a napkin and said, "Lexi, you built this. Be proud." I was. I am. Halfway through the event, a woman approached me. I didn't recognize her at first. Her hair was different. She wore sunglasses, but when she took them off, I felt it. Amber, one of Monica's old lead teachers from years ago. She'd left before I ever did. I heard rumors she'd gone back to school or moved away, but I never knew what really happened. "Lexi," she said gently, "I've been following your story online, in the paper. I just had to come see it for myself." I hugged her without even thinking. She looked around, visibly moved. "It's everything we used to dream about. You actually made it happen." We sat down together at one of the picnic tables under the shade. Amber told me things I didn't know, like how Monica had once fired her for suggesting a new reading program, how she kept employees from applying for state credentials by telling them it was too complicated, how she laughed behind my back every time I told a parent I was interested in early childhood education. "She was terrified of you," Amber said simply, "not because you were threatening, but because you cared." It was the most bittersweet compliment I'd ever received. After the festival, I stayed late cleaning. I could have gone home. I could have left it for morning. But I needed the quiet. One last walk through the halls before Monday turned everything back into routine. I wandered into my office, turned on the lamp, and sat behind my desk. And then I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out the envelope. The one from my dad. I hadn't read the letter again since the day he handed it to me. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I was afraid it would hurt again. Maybe I just didn't want to go backwards. But tonight felt right. I unfolded the paper. "Lexi, I don't know how to make up for the time I missed. I don't expect you to forgive me. I left when I should have stayed. I broke when I should have fought. And I let you carry a weight I should have protected you from. But I see you now, not just for what you've built, but for who you've become. I am proud of you in ways I will never have the words for. If there's ever a place for me in your life, I will be here. quietly, respectfully. Always, Dad, I cried, harder than I expected. Not because I needed him anymore, but because it wasn't about needing him. It was about letting go of the pain, letting it be part of the story, not the whole thing. A week later, I called him. We had coffee in the park. He didn't try to explain everything. He didn't ask for anything. We just talked. He listened, and it was enough. That same month, something incredible happened. A woman from the state Early Childhood Coalition reached out. She had seen our news segment, read about our grant progress, and toured our facility without even announcing herself. "I'd like you to speak at our fall conference," she said, "on transforming trauma into leadership." At first, I panicked. Public speaking? In front of professionals? Me? But I said yes. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that every time you share your voice, you light the path for someone else who's still in the dark. So that fall, I stood on a stage in a hotel ballroom, in front of a crowd of 300 educators, and told my story about my mom, about Monica, about being just a babysitter, about turning that insult into a blueprint. And when I finished, the room stood and clapped. Not because I was a hero, but because they saw themselves in me. Every quiet worker who was underestimated, every woman told she needed a degree before she could lead, every teacher who knew they mattered, even when no one said it out loud. Afterward, 3 women hugged me with tears in their eyes. One said, "You reminded me why I started this work in the first place." That night, I sat alone in my hotel room with a cup of tea and stared out at the city skyline. And I whispered to myself, "You were never just a babysitter. You were always an architect. And now you're building futures." Back home, things kept growing. Little Ladders now has a staff of 12, a second classroom under construction, and a mentorship program for high school students interested in early childhood careers. I made sure one of the first mentees was the girl from Career Day, the one whose aunt told her she'd flip burgers. She wants to open a center of her own someday. I tell her she will. We don't hang Monica's name anywhere. There's no plaque, no memory of her in the walls. But I don't carry bitterness. I carry clarity. I carry the names of every child who drew me a thank you picture, every exhausted parent who whispered, "I trust you," every staff member who came from broken places and found family under this roof. This building used to be a symbol of control. Now, it's a cathedral of care. And when people ask me how I did it, how I made something so strong from so much pain, I say this: you don't have to wait for permission to bloom. You just need roots, water, and the courage to grow anyway. And then I go back to work, because the blocks won't stack themselves. The little hands still need holding. The laughter still needs space to echo. And the future? It's already in the room.